Welcome to Cooking with Soy. My name is Kuzma. I'm the Registered Dietitian here at the 50th and O Hy-Vee in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'll be your host today. Today I'm going to show you 3 simple recipes using edamame, which is one of my favorite foods. Edamame are the green, tender soybeans. They're picked young when they're sweet. They're larger than the soybeans you may be used to. They're very popular in Asian countries. So if you've been to a sushi restaurant and ordered sushi, you may have had them before as an appetizer when you're eating sushi. They're pretty popular over in the Asian countries, but they're just starting to become more popular here in the US. I think you'll really enjoy them. I encourage you to give them a try. You can usually find them in the frozen section of your local grocery store. That's where we store them here at Hy-Vee. Occasionally you can find them fresh in the produce section, but more commonly frozen. Now when you're buying frozen, you want to check whether you're buying the in the pod version, such as these, or version out of the pods. You can buy either way. Either way, you just don't want to eat the pods because they're very tough. Today our recipe is edamame nibbles. We're just going to take the bag of frozen edamame, measure out 2 cups, which I have here, and pour them into a pot of boiling water. Give them a little stir there. We're going to bring the water back to a boil and boil them for 4 to 5 minutes. Our edamame is finished cooking now. I'm going to take it off the heat and just drain the water off. Edamame are a great source of protein as well as soy isoflavones, which occur only in soy, and they are low in carbohydrates. They're also cholesterol-free and a good source of essential fatty acids. Once they're pretty well drained, I'm going to put them in a bowl and toss them with a little bit of coarse salt. I have a nice salt grinder today to get good large crystals. It's best to grind the salt immediately after they are finished cooking so it'll stick. Just a few grinds. Now we can either chill these down with cold water and serve them later, or we can serve them hot, as is most common. A few on each plate. Now you don't want to eat the pod. The pod is very, very tough. You just want to pop the little beans out of the pod. That's where the sweet, tender part is. I usually just use my teeth. If I try to use my fingers, they end up flying on the floor. So I just usually put the end of the pod in my mouth and pull the beans right out. Our next dish is a soy succotash. It makes a great side dish to serve with any sort of meat. We're going to start out with the edamame. I have about 2 cups. Now you might notice these look different than the first recipe we made. These are just the edamame taken out of the shell. You can buy them this way or you can pop them out of the shell yourself, but it's a little easier just to buy them already shelled. These are defrosted. Take the 2 cups and I have 2 teaspoons of soybean oil just heating up in my pan. You can hear a nice sizzle there. I also have 2 cups of chopped cherry tomatoes. Nice, colorful recipe. I have 1 cup of frozen corn that's been defrosted and drained. Then I have about a 1/4 cup of chopped red onion. Red onion is nice and sweet and adds more great color to this recipe. Now to season it, I have 2 teaspoons of chopped garlic. You could use fresh garlic and chop it yourself, or you could use the kind that you can buy in a little jar. Personally, I like to use fresh garlic whenever I can myself, but the chopped garlic in the jar is very convenient. So if you're short on time, don't feel bad. still tastes great. I also have a teaspoon of ground cumin. Gives it a little bit of a smoky flavor. It's common in Mexican type dishes. A little Southwest kind of a flavor. I also have my coarse kosher salt. Do about a half teaspoon of that. I like to just use a pinch. Give it a taste. I can always add more later, but you can't take it out. And then for a little heat, I have cayenne pepper, about a quarter teaspoon. And if you don't like it spicy, you could leave this out, but I like a little kick. Once we get this all combined really well, we're going to cook it about 2 to 4 minutes after it gets back up to a good sizzling heat. It's a little bit cooled down right now after putting all the ingredients back in, but it'll come back up to heat here shortly. All right, this has been cooking for just a few minutes, just to kind of get the onion cooked and the garlicky, raw garlic flavor down. You don't need to cook it too long though, because you want to keep it nice and fresh and bright. I'm going to serve it on the plate here next to a lean pork tenderloin. A beautiful, healthy side dish. Perfect for any of your summer grilling. Our last recipe today is chicken, corn, and edamame stew. This is a great dish to make on the weekend, and you can package it up, eat it all week long. I'm going to start out with just a little bit of diced onion. I've got 1 1/4 cup diced chopped white onion. I have a little oil heating in my pan just so that the onion isn't going to burn and stick. So we get this nice and hot. If your oil starts smoking, you know you're using too much heat, so you'll want to turn it down. But right now we're doing good. We just have a nice sizzle. I'm also going to stir in about a 1/2 cup of chopped red bell pepper. Anytime you're using a lot of color with foods, you know you're getting a lot of antioxidants. Red peppers are a great source of antioxidants. Just going to add a little bit of salt, maybe 1/2 teaspoon. And a little bit of coarse black pepper, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon again. You can season it to your own taste if you don't like fresh pepper or prefer less salt. I also have fresh thyme. Now it's a wonderful, wonderful thing if you can grow your own herbs, but we do sell them at Hy-Vee in the produce section. This one I purchased. You want to open it up, give it a quick wash, paper towel, dry it. Then you've got the little stems. You can just take your fingers and run your fingers down the stems to get the little leaves off and broken up. Now, if you don't have fresh thyme, you could certainly use dried thyme, but you're going to get a brighter, sharper, better flavor from the fresh. So if you can get fresh, I highly recommend it. We want about 1 teaspoon of thyme total. I can really smell the aromas from this fresh herb. Alrighty. This looks delicious. Once we have that cooked down a little bit, we're going to add tomato paste. Now, you may have bought little cans of tomato paste before and used part of it and then stuck it in the refrigerator to save for later and found that it started molding on you and then you just ended up throwing it away. So here at Hy-Vee, we sell tomato paste in tubes, kind of like toothpaste, except it's tomato paste. You can just squeeze out however much or little you want, save the rest for later in the refrigerator. It keeps indefinitely. So we need about 2 tablespoons today. I'm just going to eyeball it. Squeezes right into the pan. Save the rest for later. I'm going to kind of mix that in so it gets all incorporated and distributed with all the onions. And tomato paste is a great concentrated source of lycopene, which is an antioxidant found in regular tomatoes. And it's a good source, or it's found in regular tomatoes, but it's a lot better source, more concentrated source if you get the tomato paste. So if you really want that concentrated lycopene, go for the tomato paste. Okay, we've got this cooking now. I've got a package of about 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I'm just going to take those guys and set them in. I like the thighs because the dark meat is just a little more tender and juicy, and it works well in this stew because we're going to shred them later. If you wanted something a little bit lighter and lower in fat, you could use the breast as well. I'm going to add 1.5 cups of vegetable broth. And about 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce. It's a little bit like soy sauce, kind of a dark, salty sauce. It's available in a light variety as well if you're trying to reduce the sodium in your diet. Everything's looking good there. Now I have 6 plum tomatoes that I just roughly chopped up. We'll add those in too. Okay, now at this point our chicken just needs to cook. We're going to bring the heat up to high, let it come to a boil, and then we'll reduce the heat, put the lid on, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes or until the chicken is cooked. Okay, our chicken has been cooking now for about 12 to 14 minutes. You just wanted to get the chicken cooked through thoroughly. It needs to reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees. You could take a knife and kind of poke it a little, see if it looks done in the middle bit, or you could use a temperature probe. Our chicken is done now. I'm going to take the lid off. Oh, it smells delicious. Can't wait to try it. I'm just going to take the chicken and set it out on a plate. Now I'm going to shred the chicken to put it back into the stew, but you want to give it a little bit of time sitting on the plate to cool down because it's really hot right now. And because we used moist heat for cooking and we used a nice dark cut of meat, which is a little more tender, it'll shred very, very easily with a fork as soon as it has a little bit of time to cool down. All right, at this point, we're going to stir in about 10 ounces of corn. You can use frozen, just thawed out. Or if you have fresh ears of corn on the cob, you can certainly cut the corn off those and use them too. And once again, our ingredient of the day, fresh edamame. Out of the pot again this time. They look kind of like lima beans, but I promise they taste a lot better than lima beans. And we'll just stir this all in and get it good and hot. And through the magic of television, I have some of the shredded chicken that I did ahead of time. We're just going to take this shredded chicken and stir this back in. Once this is all hot, we can serve it up in a bowl with a nice piece of whole grain bread or a whole grain roll. I always like to kind of have some bread to dip in my soup or my stew, soak up that extra little bit of broth. What a beautiful, colorful stew. Today I've shown you 3 easy ways to use edamame in your diet. Boiled and sprinkled with salt as an appetizer in the pod, soy succotash with an easy side dish to serve with meat, or in a chicken stew. Edamame is a great and healthy addition to any meal. I hope you'll try these recipes. They can be found on the Nebraska Soybean Board's website or on the Bean Team's Facebook page. The Nebraska Soybean Board encourages you to eat well, eat soy.